Hello everyone, my name is Olivia. I work as an auditor at a prestigious accounting firm in the heart of the city. My life has always revolved around order and precision, a routine I cherished until a seemingly minor event turned my world upside down. That event was a party thrown by my friend Mia. The night of Mia's party, I was in my element. Surrounded by familiar faces and the hum of laughter, I felt a sense of comfort. But that night was destined to be different. Nathan, a food sales manager with an easy smile and a laid-back attitude, introduced himself. We bonded over our shared love for hiking and classic rock, and I was immediately drawn to his effortless charm. "I can't believe we've never met before," Nathan said as we debated the best Led Zeppelin album. "Mia must have been keeping you all to herself." I laughed, feeling a rare sense of ease. "Well, I guess she wanted to save the best for last." The connection we felt was instantaneous. Nathan's relaxed demeanor contrasted sharply with my structured world, and it felt like a breath of fresh air. Our dates quickly became a whirlwind of adventure and laughter, leaving me to wonder if I was living in a fairy tale. A few months into our relationship, Nathan invited me to his sister Rachel's barbecue. I was excited yet nervous about meeting his family. As we pulled up to Rachel's house, the chaos that greeted us was nothing short of overwhelming. Her 3 kids were like tornadoes, wreaking havoc on every corner of the yard. Toys scattered across the grass, and shrieks of laughter mixed with cries of frustration from Rachel. Nathan and Rachel seemed unfazed, their easygoing nature not disrupted by the pandemonium. "Is it always like this?" I asked Nathan, struggling to keep my voice steady as a child barreled past me, nearly knocking over a stack of plastic cups. He grinned, looking amused. "Pretty much. Rachel's kids have a lot of energy. But don't worry, it's all part of the fun." My discomfort was palpable, but love had already wrapped its warm, blinding arms around me. I told myself this was just a minor bump in our otherwise perfect relationship. Despite my unease, I chose to ignore my growing reservations, convincing myself that Nathan's family dynamics were simply an adjustment I needed to make. We got married in a beautiful ceremony that unfortunately was marred by the continued antics of Rachel's children. As we settled into our new life, I could no longer overlook the cracks forming in our seemingly perfect relationship. Nathan's laid-back attitude, once endearing, now grated on my nerves. His disregard for household chores left me constantly picking up the slack, creating a rift between us. One evening, as we sat at the dinner table, the conversation turned tense. "Nathan, we need to talk about the chores," I said, trying to keep my voice calm despite the frustration bubbling within me. "I feel like I'm handling everything on my own." Nathan looked up from his plate, a forkful of pasta poised in midair. "Olivia, I work hard too. It's not like I'm just sitting around all day." "I know you work hard," I replied, but we agreed on sharing responsibilities. "It's not just about doing the chores, it's about being partners." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "I'm doing my best. Maybe you're just expecting too much." Our conversations became increasingly strained, filled with passive-aggressive remarks and unspoken resentments. The situation reached a boiling point when we decided to buy a house together. I was thrilled about this new chapter, meticulously planning our finances and choosing furniture with precision. Nathan's surprise gift of a new car, though thoughtful, did little to soothe my growing stress. Rachel's visits, now more frequent and disruptive, left me feeling overwhelmed. One day, after yet another chaotic visit, I confronted Nathan about setting boundaries with his sister. To my shock, he dismissed my concerns with a wave of his hand. "Olivia, you're being uptight. It's just my sister and her kids. They're family. You should be more supportive." His words stung, and I realized that the dream I had been living was slowly unraveling into a nightmare. The final straw came when Nathan casually announced that Rachel, newly divorced, would be moving in with us along with her children. I was stunned, feeling as though the ground had been pulled out from under me. "You can't be serious," I said, my voice trembling. "This isn't what we agreed on. We need to talk about this." Nathan's face hardened. "I'm doing this for family. You're being selfish and unsupportive." The next morning, I woke up to find my car keys missing. Nathan had given my car to Rachel without even consulting me. My frustration and sense of betrayal reached a breaking point. With a clarity I hadn't felt in months, I made a decision. I called a moving company and had them pack up everything I had bought for our home. As I watched the movers carry out each piece of furniture, I felt a mix of sadness and liberation. When Nathan came home to find the house stripped bare, his shock quickly turned to anger. "What the hell, Olivia?" he yelled, his face flushed with disbelief. What's going on? I handed him the receipts and divorce papers. I'm done, Nathan. I can't live like this anymore. His expression was a blend of shock and fury. You can't just, I already have, I interrupted, my voice steady. I'm reclaiming my life. The look of disbelief on his face was something I would never forget. In the aftermath of our separation, I found myself living with my mother, trying to piece my life back together. The first few weeks were a blur of emotions: anger, sadness, relief, and fear of the unknown. But as the dust settled, I began to rediscover myself. One afternoon, while browsing apartment listings, I stumbled upon a small but charming place downtown. The moment I stepped inside for the viewing, I knew it was meant to be mine. It represented everything I needed: a fresh start, independence, and a space that was truly my own. Moving day was a whirlwind of activity, filled with laughter and support from my mom and close friends. As we sat on the floor of my new apartment that evening, surrounded by boxes and sharing pizza, I felt a surge of happiness I hadn't experienced in years. Looking out at the city lights from my small balcony, I realized that this wasn't just a new apartment, it was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. One where I was finally in control. Nathan and I settled into our married life with a blend of excitement and trepidation. Our home, a cozy little house in a quiet neighborhood, was meant to be a sanctuary. Instead, it quickly became a battleground. The cracks in our seemingly perfect relationship were starting to widen, and the little things that had once been endearing now felt like insurmountable obstacles. The honeymoon phase was fading fast. Nathan's laid-back attitude, which I had once found so charming, now irritated me to no end. Our daily routines had started to reveal the harsh reality of our mismatched expectations. I was obsessed with order and structure, while Nathan's easygoing approach often meant neglecting chores and responsibilities. One evening, as I was sifting through stacks of bills and organizing our budget, Nathan plopped down on the couch, his feet propped up on the coffee table. "Hey, how's the financial planning going?" he asked, flipping through a magazine without looking up. "It's going," I replied, trying to keep my voice neutral. "But we need to discuss the household budget again. I think we're overspending." Nathan looked up with a bemused smile. "Come on, Olivia. It's just a little extra here and there. I'm sure it'll even out." I could feel the tension creeping up my spine. "It's not just a little extra. We need to stick to a plan. Otherwise, we're going to end up in trouble." He shrugged, clearly unfazed. "I trust you to handle it. You're the one with the spreadsheet obsession." His casual dismissal stung more than he realized. I wanted him to be engaged, to care about the things that mattered to me. But instead, it felt like my concerns were being brushed aside. Our disagreements grew more frequent. It was as if we were trapped in a cycle of passive-aggressive comments and unspoken resentments. The situation worsened when we decided to buy new furniture for the house. I meticulously planned every detail, from the color of the curtains to the type of couch. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a way to make our house feel like a home. Nathan's surprise gift of a new car, while thoughtful, did little to alleviate my growing stress. The car was a symbol of his generous, spontaneous nature, but it felt like another distraction from the real issues at hand. One weekend, Rachel and her kids showed up unannounced. As usual, their arrival turned our home into a whirlwind of chaos. Toys were strewn everywhere, and the noise was deafening. I tried to maintain a semblance of calm, but the mess and commotion were too much. Nathan seemed oblivious to my mounting frustration. "Come on, Liv, relax. It's just a family get-together." "I'm trying," I said through gritted teeth. "But this isn't relaxing for me. It's overwhelming." Rachel, ever the well-meaning but intrusive sister, plopped down on the couch next to me. "I hope you don't mind us dropping by. I just needed a break from the kids." I forced a smile. "Of course not. We're happy to have you." Inside, I was seething. I wanted to scream at Nathan, to demand that he set boundaries with his sister. But I held back, not wanting to create more tension. The more Rachel visited, the more I felt like I was losing control. Every time she came over, it was like hitting the reset button on all my efforts to maintain order. The house would be a mess for days, and Nathan seemed completely unfazed by the disruption. One evening, after another particularly destructive visit from Rachel and her kids, I snapped. I found Nathan in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner. "Nathan, we need to talk," I said, my voice trembling with frustration. "This isn't working for me. I can't keep living like this." He turned to me, his expression defensive. "What do you mean? I thought everything was going well." "No, it's not," I said, my voice rising. "Rachel's visits are getting out of hand. The house is a mess, and I'm the only one dealing with it. We need to set some boundaries. Nathan's face hardened. Olivia, you're being too uptight. My sister and her kids are part of my life. You knew that when we got married. And I'm okay with that, I retorted. But this isn't just about them. It's about us, about how we're supposed to handle things together. I need you to be more involved, to help me with this. Nathan threw down the dish towel in frustration. You know what? Maybe you're just too much of a perfectionist. Not everything has to be so controlled. His words felt like a slap in the face. I was trying to communicate my needs, but he was dismissing them as mere quirks. The growing distance between us was painful and disheartening. The situation reached a breaking point when Nathan came home one day with a shocking announcement. Olivia, I need to tell you something, he said, his voice serious. Rachel's getting divorced and she needs a place to stay. She and the kids are going to move in with us. My heart sank. What? Nathan, that's not okay. We haven't even discussed this. He looked at me with a mixture of guilt and defiance. I know it's sudden, but she's family. I can't just turn her away. I felt a surge of panic and betrayal. What about our plans? What about the space we need? You're making decisions without even considering how this affects me. Nathan's eyes narrowed. I'm doing this for family. If you can't support that, then maybe we have a bigger problem. I stared at him, feeling a sense of despair. It was clear that our marriage was unraveling and the weight of it all was becoming unbearable. In the days that followed, Rachel and her kids moved in, and our home became an even greater source of stress and chaos. I found myself overwhelmed and increasingly isolated. The dream I had once cherished was slipping through my fingers, leaving me to confront the painful reality of my situation. The chaos of Rachel and her kids moving in seemed to mark a new level of upheaval in our lives. Our home, once a place of respite, had transformed into a battleground. Every room was a jumble of clutter, and the noise was relentless. The lack of privacy and the constant disruption took an emotional toll on me, amplifying my frustrations and feelings of helplessness. One evening, as I was attempting to unwind with a book, Rachel's kids were running wild through the house, their laughter and shouting a sharp contrast to my need for peace. I could hear Nathan's voice rising above the din, trying to keep them in check. I walked into the living room, where Nathan was trying and failing to calm the chaos. Nathan, we need to talk about this, I said, my voice barely rising above the noise. Nathan glanced at me, clearly frazzled. Olivia, I'm doing my best here. It's not easy with them all over the place. That's just it, I said, struggling to keep my composure. I feel like I'm constantly fighting to maintain some semblance of order. It's affecting me. We need to set some boundaries. Nathan shook his head. You're just not used to this kind of environment. It's temporary, okay. Things will settle down eventually. I tried to explain how the constant chaos was breaking me down, but my words seemed to bounce off him. Nathan's inability to see the depth of my distress only made the situation worse. It wasn't just the noise and mess. It was the sense of betrayal. I had hoped Nathan would stand by me, help me navigate this new reality. Instead, he was absorbed in managing the chaos, leaving me feeling like an outsider in my own home. The situation came to a head one day when Nathan arrived home with yet another surprise. A new pet for Rachel's kids, a boisterous golden retriever named Max. The dog, while adorable, only added to the mayhem. I found myself in the middle of a house that felt increasingly foreign and uncontrollable. In the kitchen, I confronted Nathan again. Seriously, Nathan. Another addition to this madhouse? I can't keep up with all this. I feel like I'm losing myself. Nathan looked taken aback. It's just a dog, Olivia. It's not that big of a deal. I felt my frustration bubbling over. It is a big deal. It's the last straw. I'm overwhelmed by the noise, the mess, and the lack of support. You're not even seeing how this is affecting me. Nathan's face hardened. Olivia, you knew Rachel and her kids were part of my life. This is what you signed up for. I didn't sign up for a constant state of disorder, I retorted. I'm asking for some understanding, for us to figure out how to manage this together. He sighed, rubbing his temples. I'm trying to balance everything. Maybe you're not giving it a fair chance. The disagreement left me feeling isolated and unheard. I was struggling to keep it together, but it felt like I was fighting a losing battle. Nathan's dismissive attitude only deepened the chasm between us. The final blow came when Nathan casually announced that Rachel, newly divorced, would be moving in with us along with her 3 children. The news hit me like a sledgehammer. I stood in shock, unable to grasp the full impact of his words. "You're kidding, right? We hadn't even settled into this new arrangement, and now you're adding more people." Nathan's face was a mix of guilt and resolve. "I can't just turn Rachel away. She needs us right now." "You're not even considering how this affects me," I said, my voice breaking. "We need space. We need to breathe." Nathan's expression turned defensive. "I'm doing this for family. If you can't support that, then maybe we have bigger problems." That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling trapped and betrayed. The dream of a harmonious home seemed like a distant memory. Every aspect of my life felt like it was slipping through my fingers. The next morning, I discovered my car keys missing. Nathan, without consulting me, had given my car to Rachel. The betrayal was the last straw. I felt a surge of anger and despair, realizing that I was no longer in control of my own life. In a moment of clarity, I made a decision. I couldn't continue living in this environment where my needs and boundaries were consistently disregarded. I called a moving company and arranged for them to pack up everything I had bought for our home. Watching the movers carry out each piece of furniture, I felt a strange mixture of sadness and liberation. When Nathan came home to find the house stripped bare, his reaction was a mix of shock and anger. "What's going on here?" he demanded, his face pale with disbelief. "I'm reclaiming my life," I said firmly, handing him the receipts and divorce papers. "This isn't working for me, and I'm done." Nathan's anger was palpable, but I stood my ground. The look on his face as he processed what was happening was a mixture of confusion and fury. The confrontation marked a turning point. I had finally asserted control over my own life, taking a stand against the chaos that had consumed it. The realization was both painful and empowering. The home that had once been a symbol of our shared dreams had become a battleground, and I was determined to reclaim my sense of self. In the quiet that followed, I felt a newfound strength. I was ready to start over, to rebuild my life on my own terms. The journey ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope and self-empowerment. I moved back in with my mother, the weight of my recent decisions pressing heavily on my shoulders. The space that once felt like a refuge now felt too familiar, a stark reminder of my recent failure. The first few weeks were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, anger, sadness, and a profound sense of loss. I was grappling with the end of a relationship that had consumed so much of my life, and it was hard to see beyond the immediate turmoil. Every day felt like a struggle to piece together a semblance of normalcy. My mother was a pillar of support, but her well-intentioned advice sometimes felt overwhelming. One afternoon, she sat down with me over a cup of tea, her eyes filled with concern. "Olivia," she began gently, "I know you're going through a lot right now, but you can't stay in this state of limbo forever. Have you thought about what's next for you?" I sighed, stirring my tea absent-mindedly. "I'm just trying to get through each day, Mom. It feels like I'm starting from scratch, and I don't even know where to begin." My mother reached across the table, taking my hand in hers. "I understand, but maybe this is an opportunity for you to rediscover what you really want. You don't have to have all the answers now. Just take it one step at a time." Her words, though comforting, did little to dispel the anxiety gnawing at me. I was still processing the upheaval of my life, and the idea of moving forward felt both daunting and liberating. But amidst the chaos, there was a flicker of something new, a sense of possibility that I hadn't felt in a long time. One day, while browsing online apartment listings, I stumbled upon a small, charming place downtown. The moment I stepped inside for the viewing, I felt an unexpected surge of hope. The apartment, with its exposed brick walls and large windows, seemed to whisper promises of a fresh start. The real estate agent, a cheerful woman named Lydia, led me through the space. "It's a bit of a fixer-upper," she said with a wink, "but it has character. The previous tenants left it in good shape, though, so it's move-in ready." As we walked through the rooms, I imagined myself in each space. The living room, with its cozy alcove, could be the perfect reading nook. The small kitchen, though modest, felt inviting. It was a stark contrast to the chaos I had left behind, and I could see myself making it my own. When the viewing ended, I felt a rare sense of excitement. I called my mother to share the news. "Mom, I think I found it," I said, barely able to contain my enthusiasm. "A new apartment. It feels like the right place for me." Her voice was warm and encouraging. "That's wonderful, Olivia. I'm so glad you're finding something that feels right. I know it's been tough, but it sounds like you're taking a step towards something positive." The following weeks were a blur of packing, moving, and settling into my new place. My mother and a few close friends rallied around me, helping with the heavy lifting and offering emotional support. The physical act of moving felt like a cathartic release, as if I was shedding the remnants of my old life with each box I unpacked. The first night in my new apartment was both exhilarating and surreal. I sat on the floor, surrounded by unpacked boxes, and took in the view from my small balcony. The city lights twinkled below, and I felt a sense of peace that had eluded me for months. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Later that evening, my friend Mia came over to help me unpack the last of the boxes. As we sat on the floor of the living room, surrounded by piles of packing material and half-assembled furniture, Mia looked at me with a mischievous grin. "So," she said, "how's the new life treating you? Ready to start a new adventure?" I laughed, feeling the lightness that had been missing for so long. "I think I am. It's definitely a change, but it feels good. Like a blank canvas." Maya raised her glass of wine in a toast. "To new beginnings, then, and to kicking chaos to the curb." We clinked glasses, and I felt a wave of gratitude for her support. It was moments like these that reminded me of the value of genuine friendships and the importance of surrounding myself with people who truly understood me. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself embracing the simplicity and freedom of my new space. I began to rediscover hobbies that had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. I spent weekends exploring the city, finding hidden gems and new favorite spots. I took up painting again, using it as an outlet for my emotions and a way to express my newfound sense of self. One afternoon, while working on a painting in my sunlit studio, I received a call from Nathan. His voice was hesitant, tinged with an unfamiliar vulnerability. "Olivia, I know this is out of the blue, but I wanted to check in. How are you doing?" I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of nostalgia and resolve. "I'm doing well, Nathan. I'm settling into my new life, finding my footing. It's been a challenging but necessary journey." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "I'm glad to hear that. I wanted to apologize for everything. I didn't realize how much I was neglecting your feelings. I hope you can find it in yourself to forgive me." His apology was a step toward closure, but I realized that I had already moved beyond the need for his validation. "Thank you for saying that. I've learned a lot about myself during this time, and I'm grateful for the lessons. But I'm focused on moving forward now." As I hung up the phone, I felt a sense of finality. I had come full circle, from feeling trapped and overwhelmed to finding strength and independence. The journey had been arduous, but it had led me to a place of self-discovery and empowerment. I looked around my new apartment, my sanctuary, and felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I was ready to face it with renewed confidence and a clearer sense of who I was. The future was an open canvas, and for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would take me. Months had passed since I moved into my new apartment, and the rhythm of my life had settled into a comforting routine. My days were filled with small pleasures: morning coffee on the balcony, weekend trips to the farmer's market, and evenings spent painting or curled up with a good book. The freedom to live on my terms had transformed my outlook, and I felt a profound sense of liberation that had been missing for far too long. One sunny afternoon, I was deep in thought, reviewing some sketches for a new painting project, when my phone buzzed. The caller ID displayed Nathan's name. My heart skipped a beat, a mix of apprehension and curiosity gnawing at me. I hadn't heard from him since our last conversation, where he had apologized for his past mistakes. "Hello," I answered, my voice steadier than I felt. "Olivia." Nathan's voice was hesitant, tinged with a desperation that felt foreign. "I didn't expect to catch you. I hope I'm not interrupting anything." I took a deep breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "No, it's fine. What's up?" "I know it's been a while, but I've been thinking a lot. I've had some time to reflect on everything, and I realize now how much I've messed up. I wanted to reach out and see if there's any chance we could talk, maybe meet up." There was a pause, and I could almost hear the weight of his words. My initial instinct was to refuse, to maintain the boundaries I'd worked so hard to establish. But a part of me was curious about his transformation, if indeed it was genuine. "Why now, Nathan?" I asked, my tone cautious. "What has changed that makes you want to talk?" "I've been going to therapy," he admitted, "and I've been working on myself. I want to make things right, if that's even possible. I miss what we had, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to show you I changed." I mulled over his words, the mixture of regret and hope in his voice pulling at something deep inside me. After a moment of contemplation, I said, "Okay, we can meet. But let's keep it brief. I'm not sure what this will accomplish, but I'm willing to hear you out. We agreed to meet at a cafe downtown, a neutral ground that felt safe and unburdened by past memories. When I arrived, I saw Nathan sitting at a corner table, looking more subdued than I remembered. He was dressed casually, but there was a new seriousness in his demeanor. "Hi, Olivia," he said, standing up as I approached. "Thank you for agreeing to meet." I nodded, taking a seat across from him. "Let's get to it. What do you want to say?" Nathan took a deep breath, his eyes searching mine as if trying to gauge my reaction. "I've been doing a lot of soul searching. I realize now how much I took you for granted and how my actions hurt you. I want to apologize not just for what I did, but for not being the partner you deserved. I know that doesn't fix everything, but I wanted to be honest with you about where I am now." I studied him, looking for signs of genuine remorse. "And what exactly do you want from me? An apology? Forgiveness?" "No," he said quickly, "not forgiveness. I don't expect that. I just want you to know that I've changed. I started understanding the impact of my actions and how much I've hurt you. I'm working on becoming a better person, not just for myself, but for the people around me." His words were sincere, but they felt like a bandage over a deep wound. I had moved on, built a new life, and found a sense of peace that I wasn't ready to compromise. "Nathan," I said gently, "I appreciate that you're working on yourself. But I've moved on from our relationship. I'm in a place where I'm finally finding my own happiness. I don't think there's room for us to go back to what we had." Nathan's face fell and he looked away, clearly struggling to process my response. "I understand," he said quietly. "I just wanted you to know that I'm sorry. And if you ever decide you want to talk again, or if there's anything you need, I'm here." I nodded, feeling a mixture of sadness and relief. "Thank you for letting me know. I hope you continue to work on yourself and find what you're looking for." As we finished our coffee and parted ways, I felt a sense of closure that had been eluding me. It was a bittersweet moment, a final acknowledgement of our shared past and a clear declaration of my new path forward. The following days were filled with a renewed sense of purpose. I threw myself into my work and my creative projects, feeling more connected to my true self than ever before. My apartment had become a sanctuary, a place where I could fully embrace my independence and explore my passions. One evening, while attending a local art gallery opening, I ran into Mia. She greeted me with her usual enthusiasm, her eyes sparkling with curiosity. "So, how did the big reunion go?" she asked as we sipped our wine and admired the artwork. I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. It was a good conversation. I think it gave me the closure I needed. Maya raised her glass in a toast. "To closure and new beginnings. Here's to the future you're building for yourself." We clinked glasses, and I felt a wave of gratitude for the support and friendship that had helped me navigate this turbulent chapter of my life. As I looked around the gallery, taking in the vibrant colors and textures of the art, I felt a deep sense of contentment. The journey had been long and arduous, but it had led me to a place of genuine happiness and self-discovery. The future was no longer a source of anxiety, but a canvas of possibilities, and I was ready to embrace whatever came next with open arms.